Coming up on this week's episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast, we sit down to talk about Will's favorite comic book series, Usagi Yojimbo, written and illustrated by the venerable Stan Sakai. Stay tuned for more right after this. I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Nerds. We are here in my living room recording on a new setup. So we're recording on a desktop PC for the first time.
Fancy.
And we are recording for the first time with our Audio-Technica microphones.
Oh.
We have recently purchased two Audio-Technica AT2005 USB/XLR microphones. Long term, we want to have a physical mixer or interface where we can plug the XLR in through that and then put that directly into the PC. But at this point, we are doing it through a free program, actually, Voicemeeter. They work on donations, but
Voicemeeter.
Yeah, like you can set it up. It's sort of like a virtual mixer in a sense. You can bring both the microphones in, and then that comes in as a single source through Audacity, which we are also recording on for the first time. So we're trying some new things. Hopefully it'll work out well, and you'll be able to hear us well. But
yes,
welcome. So, unfortunately, for those of you who are anticipating video, we couldn't get it to sync up with the video recording, so there will be no video this week.
So
bum,
sad.
Bum, bum. But audio is the main thing, because this is a podcast, after all. That's the most important thing. And speaking of important things, we are here today to talk about Will's favorite comic book. Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair to say. I was definitely one of the most influential for me.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about Usagi Yojimbo. Did I say that correctly? Usagi Yojimbo. So. Usagi! No. And yeah, and I was in preparation, like I was reading through a couple of, I got through one graphic novel, The Tengu Wars. Oh, you have it. Nice. Mm-hmm. Tengu War. Where does that fall in the pantheon?
Well, chronologically, it would be one of the... it would be... okay, except for special exceptions, the comics generally take place in the timeline as it unfolds. So, we're not jumping back in time a whole lot here or anything like that. It just... this story takes place after the last story kind of thing.
Nice. And how many years has Stan Sakai been doing this now? 20-something?
No, older than that.
Really?
Yes, he's been putting out Usagi Yojimbo since before I was born.
Wow.
I think either 83 or 84. I forget.
Nice. And he pretty much does the whole thing himself, right? He does the writing, he does the drawing, the lettering, like the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah, he does. And he still finds time to work on other projects. I don't know how he does it. He's famous for his lettering on things like the Spider-Man comic strip. I know that's one of the things that he does. Yeah,
I saw on Tengu War that he won an Eisner Award for lettering on that one. I'm assuming he's probably won that a few times.
Oh, quite a few times, and some Parents' Choice Awards as well.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything. Basically, it looked PG material to me, like PG because of the violence, but he didn't have a lot of blood in it.
No.
Violence, definitely, but not blood. So it would have been like, say, like a Y7 superhero or a samurai show where there is fighting, but not on-screen blood.
Yeah, the original comics actually did have blood, but he toned it down.
Ah, okay, so that's some of his older work.
Oh, yeah, this is the first trade paperback, book one, by Fantagraphics.
Fantagraphics, so that was his first publisher.
Is that
correct? Or did he self-publish when he first got out?
Well,
if that was even a thing back in 1980.
I don't remember what company published Albedo, but this is his first publisher that I remember as a standalone series.
Huh.
Usagi originally appeared in an anthology, Albedo. I don't recall what that publisher was.
So this one was published in 1987, but is this a collection of works that were published earlier?
Oh, yes.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
So this was like a new format, like a compilation or trade paperback, I believe is the correct term, yes?
Right.
So, but before that, he was doing it, releasing as comic books.
Yeah, just story per story and issue format. And like I said, originally in anthology works like Albedo.
Okay. And so let's I want to talk about three things as we first get in here. One is Stan Sakai's story, like how did he get into comics? What's his journey there? And number two, Usagi, the main character. So it's Miyamoto Usagi, correct? Is that
right? That's correct.
His name. And what does the Yojimbo stand for?
Bodyguard.
Ah, okay. So Usagi bodyguard.
Rabbit bodyguard.
Rabbit
That's
bodyguard.
the title.
So that's what Usagi means, rabbit.
Right.
So Miyamoto rabbit.
Yes.
Because Miyamoto, I've heard that before. Is that I think a somewhat common Japanese name or?
Well, it might be, but I'm not sure about that. It might be, but it's also the family name of a famous samurai, Miyamoto Musashi.
Okay.
Which Usagi is partially based on.
Yeah, and I noticed just in reading Tengu War, and I believe I've read some more. I mean, we've been friends a long time, and you've liked Usagi as far back as I can remember. So I believe I have read some other ones, but he puts a lot of. I'm assuming he does his research and puts a lot of Japanese history into his books. So I imagine that's part of the appeal, like over the decades that he's been doing it. It's like there's a lot you can keep diving into if you go to that well over and over again. Because how long has Japan been around? A couple thousand years, 2,000-3,000 years at least.
Well, we're not exactly certain how long Japan has been around because the farther back in history you get, it gets kind of murky.
Mm-hmm.
I've done some light research in there back when I was trying to write and draw my own samurai comics. But yeah, it stretches a few thousand years.
Yeah, I imagine so. And let's see. So Stan Sakai, was he born in Japan or was he like first? I don't know what the right word is. First, second gen. Did his parents emigrate? Like, what's his story like?
Well, it's been a while since I've read about this. I think he was born in Japan. Was he born in Kyoto? I can't remember. For some reason, something that starts with a K comes to mind. But wherever he was born, I think he was born in Japan, and then his family immigrated to Hawaii. Now, Usagi fans out there, correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure he was born in Japan.
Okay, and then is it San Francisco? Is that where he ended up? San Diego?
Yeah, he's definitely living out in California right now. I mean, I'm not exactly a stalker. I'm not sure exactly where he is. But
right. But
he's somewhere in that state.
Like he more or less grew up there, right? Because there were quite a few Japanese immigrants to California back over the decades. Maybe not as much in the last 50 years. But I know kind of that entire West Coast there. I know there's quite a few immigrants and like descendants of immigrants up in the Washington area, that kind of Seattle in particular. But anyway, he was born there, so his parents probably still spoke Japanese, and so he had some of that culture growing up.
Oh, absolutely.
At home, basically.
He recalls some stories growing up in Hawaii about some yokai tales. I think that I recall a story he told about a local movie theater being haunted by yokai, but he definitely grew up with that kind of influence, with that culture.
Now, remind me what a yokai is.
Oh, that is a Japanese ghost or monster.
So it's just like a generic, almost like the word ghost.
Right.
You know, it's like a
Right.
very generic term within Japanese mythology.
Right. Definitely mythology is the correct word, I think, to use there.
Apologies, my wife's calling.
Anyway, so I think that he moved to California when he was an adult, actually.
Okay, so maybe but he grew up in Hawaii.
Right. I
So
believe
he
he
grew up
attended art college in Hawaii as well.
Okay, okay. So now, how old hell was he when he first started drawing Usagi, and did he
Ooh.
have some comics he produced before that?
Yes. I haven't actually read it. I think it's called Ground Thumper, but it was about a medieval rabbit in medieval Europe. Hermes and Ground Thumper. My apologies if I'm getting these names wrong. Um, but that was about a rabbit and like a hamster sidekick, something like that.
Samurai Rabbit.
Uh, Swordsman.
So we
Not,
got
but yeah, he did that, and I'm not sure what else he might have done before he did Usagi. I know he originally created Usagi as a backup character in his Ground Thumper series, but fortunately, he
There we
decided
go.
to give him
Looking
a
at his website, The Adventures of Nilsson, Ground Thumper, and Hermie.
great. Well, I didn't get it completely wrong.
So it's a medieval setting influenced by Sergio Aragonés' Gru the Wanderer. Isn't that French comic book you picked up from McKay's the other day?
Oh no, no,
No,
no.
that's something different.
I believe that Sergio is from Spain, I think, but
Oh, okay.
the comic you're talking about is Asterix.
Yes. Okay. I've heard of Gru somewhere, but yeah, Sergio, that does seem like an Italian name. Okay, here we go. Albedo. So his characters first appeared in Albedo in 1984. Became famous with Keiichi Usagi Yojimbo. Nice. Okay, sorry I interrupted you. Yeah, we're looking at.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it looks like the information on the website here would probably be more correct than me just trying to remember what I've read.
Yeah, so obviously credit goes to the website here. We're not trying to plagiarize
Yep.
anything. This is stansakai.com, so check it out if you want to learn more about him, if you want to buy his artwork, his books, etc. So I guess we'll just read a little blurb here. So Stan Sakai began his career by simply lettering comic books as he perfected his art and began working in the industry. He also wrote and illustrated The Adventures of Nilsson, Ground Thumper, and Hermie, a comic series with a medieval setting influenced by Sergio Aragonés' Gru the Wanderer. The characters first appeared in Albedo #1 in 1984 and were subsequently featured in issues of Critters, Grimjack, Amazing Heroes, and Furlough. With 2 R's. Furlough. Stan Sakai became famous with the creation of Usagi Yojimbo, the epic saga of Miyamoto Usagi, a samurai rabbit living in late 16th and early 17th century Japan. So this is before, so kind of transitioning to Usagi, this would have been prior to, this is like the height of the samurai. Like, when did the samurai come into existence? Like, do you recall?
No, not off the top of my head.
I think I read somewhere it was like Middle Ages, but I may be getting that wrong. I'm certainly not an expert.
I'm not sure, but I do know that the 1500s, 1600s was the rise of the shogunate, the shogun, but and the subsequent fall of the samurai, where the samurai class was no longer needed because the shogun brought peace to Japan. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't let you know questions ahead of time. So we're kind of playing this by ear. So I know, well, I only know this because of the movie The Last Samurai, but the samurai more or less died out in the 19th century, yes, as with the advent of the Industrial Revolution and then Japan adopting Western technologies, the samurai slowly faded out. But obviously not in terms of their legend and their lore. I mean, you still see, well, like Usagi Yojimbo. So what was your first exposure to Usagi? Was it that book that you had, like that came out in 1987? So you would have been what, 2 years old when that came?
Well, that
so I'm assuming it was a few years later.
It was a few years later. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked. I brought this, and I'm sorry for the people who can't watch this since we can't get video. But here are some trading cards from the original 1980s Ninja Turtle cartoon in which Usagi appeared.
Ah, nice.
An episode. And that's how I was introduced.
Oh, dude, I remember these. I had a few of these trading cards. Not with Usagi on them, but I remember. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Wow, so that was pretty early on in both of those properties. Were they published by the same publisher at that time? Like, is that how they got connected?
No. Actually, Stan Sakai was friends with Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that's how that happened. Now, eventually, if I remember correctly, after Fantagraphics, Usagi Yojimbo was published by Mirage, the Ninja Turtle publishing company. I don't know what year that was, though.
I'm sure we could look it up, but not as important. But for you, do you remember how old you were? So I know Ninja Turtles started in '85, like the year we were born, but then it continued on for several years, and then it was in syndication.
Right.
So when you and I
think
when you and I were watching it, it was probably, there might have still been new episodes coming out, like of the first go around.
Well, I think the book came out in '85, the original book, but I think the cartoon was '87.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely somewhere the late '80s, early '90s. I don't know an exact year that I would have seen this Usagi Yojimbo episode. But so, yeah, that was about the time. Let's just say 1990, 1991. I don't know.
So that was your first exposure to the character, was through the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV series.
It was, and I had no idea that Usagi had his own series until sometime in the late 90s when I found this. This should be book 13, Demon Mask. So the 13th trade paperback featuring the story Demon Mask. I found this at a local comic shop, still around today, Sailfish.
Oh, okay.
And I was just enamored. I mean, I remember loving this character from the show, so I was just taken aback in joy when I saw that he had his own series. And I've been a fan ever since.
Nice. So since the late 90s. Oh, cool. This is an introduction by Paul Dini of DC and Batman the Animated Series fame. That's pretty sweet. And I could definitely see, like, as I was reading that your art style has been influenced by Stan's art style. I could see that as soon as I started reading through it. I was like, oh yeah, Will has definitely been influenced by this. Would you count Stan as one of your primary influences as far as your style, like even down to like paneling or things, or is it more just the drawing itself?
I'm not really certain. I'm glad that you can see the influence of the art style on my own art, because I think that all of my influences have blurred together to the point where I sometimes don't see where each thing came from. I'm not going to claim. What I'm trying to say is I hope that my art honors Stan Sakai, but I'm not going. I'm not going to claim to be anywhere near his level of mastery, obviously. But Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been influenced by his art style.
Well, it's a much, like, from what I could tell, it's a simpler style than definitely than, say, like your typical DC or Marvel, which can be like so intricate in the drawings. Like, it just it just seemed to me to be cleaner's not the right word, but just a simpler style. But I imagine one of the things that shows mastery is consistency, right? Like just consistency of style over the years.
Absolutely. I mean, his art style has definitely changed over the years. If you look at the first book versus the more recent books by IDW, but he has been extremely consistent in the quality of his work, both in the storytelling and the artwork.
Nice, nice.
That makes him. That's one of the reasons why he's seen as such a master of his craft. As a matter of fact, I have an embarrassing tale to tell, and this is a confession of sin.
Oh no.
So this is a comic art sin confession. So I was at Heroes Con back in 2019, and I was lined up to meet Stan Sakai, my idol. And someone asked me who didn't know Stan Sakai wasn't even there yet. We were lined up at his table, and someone said, "What's this line for?" And okay, so when I said Stan Sakai, they were like, "Well, who's that? Why should I be in this line? You know, what's this about? Who is he?" And I'm like, I told the guy that he was my childhood hero, artistically, and that, you know, if you I grew up reading Usagi Yojimbo since I was a teenager, but other people, you know, I pointed to Don Rosa over there, and I was like, well, if you grew up reading Don Rosa, maybe he'd be your hero. And so I compared the two, and then the Heroes Con staff that was holding the table for Sakai looked at me, and he was like, okay. And it was at that moment I realized I committed a cardinal sin. Stan Sakai is not just my hero. He is a legend. He is a master of his craft. If you really think about it, who else can say they've been doing the same series without quality dips for this long?
Yeah,
And
30,
getting all
almost 30 years.
Yeah, and getting all these Eisner Awards. And he just doesn't get awards for Usagi. He gets awards for his lettering on Spider-Man, the comic strip and things. I mean, he is a master. I mean, no, he's not doing the same kind of art that DC and Marvel are putting out. But, I mean, I prefer Stan's art over that anyway. But it's not everyone's cup of tea. But you can't say that Stan's artwork isn't... I mean, it is a master work.
Yeah, that's so stylistically, what is it about his work that you like? Like say compared to your typical DC, because like I know with DC and Marvel, like their superhero characters, they're so features are so exaggerated, at least their musculature and all that. And I know that's on purpose. I've always found that a bit annoying myself.
Yeah.
So what is it? What maybe in contrast to that, what is it about Stan's style that you prefer?
Well, every line has a purpose. There aren't any idle lines that are just thrown down for no reason. I guess personally, I want to act like I'm some sort of art critic and I know what I'm talking about, but the truth is I just like cartoons. I don't like the realistic art styles of DC and Marvel. I like cartoons. I like, if you were to say, hey, look at this Batman comic versus Batman the Animated Series, and you had me choose, I'm going to go to Batman the Animated Series. But as far as...
All right. Will, I'm going to pause you for a second as my family is coming in the door. So we're going to pause for just a moment. Hey nerds, Richard here, asking you to consider supporting this podcast. If if you go to our website, anchor.fm/irreverent nerd, right there on the top of the page is a support button. Click on that, and then you can select the level at which you would like to support us. You can do 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or even $9.99 a month. And as I've said before, if you agree to do $9.99 a month, we'll come to your house, give you a hug and a kiss. No, not really. Just kidding. But you will definitely receive our gratitude. So take a minute today to go on there and let us know that you love us, because, we're desperate for that. So just let us know. Thanks, nerds. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. We are back.
Back again, back, my friend.
So we were we were talking about Stan Sakai's art style and why you prefer it over DC and Marvel. And you had mentioned, for you, that's just, you like cartoons. You prefer that over...
I do. And like you, I grew up with DuckTales, and so you could probably relate when I say that, only when it comes to DuckTales, maybe, that I like the animal characters. Usagi Yojimbo was born out of the 80s underground comics movement, and there were a lot of funny animal or furry characters back then.
Yeah, and obviously the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being one, and
right.
We already talked some about how Stan knew those creators, and that's kind of how the collaborations have come over the years. Has there ever been a crossover? This is kind of getting off our current topic, but has there ever been a crossover in the comics with those two?
Oh, absolutely. I brought one of the crossovers with me. Unfortunately, it's not at my side to show you right now, but there's been quite a few crossovers with Usagi and the Turtles, both in the animated series as well as in the pages of Usagi Yojimbo itself. There were a few really short crossovers, mostly featuring Leonardo and Usagi in the early days, and then when Usagi Yojimbo was being published by Mirage, they had this quite large crossover arc. And then in more recent years, at IDW Publishing Company, there was another crossover with those characters.
Nice. That's really cool. I like seeing that, and this is obviously different creators as opposed to like a shared universe like DC or Marvel, the two together. Will's getting up to get the comic book and show it to me. So we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Usagi Yojimbo, Stan Sakai and Tom Luth.
I believe that unlike the older works, this is full color inside.
Huh. Interesting. Well, there is a section where... So it switches, unless that's just two different versions, it switches to black and white, it looks like.
Right, in the
or
back.
Is that just... okay.
It has one of the original crossovers with Leonardo and Usagi.
Nice.
From the 80s.
So that's more historic. Yeah, the coloring honestly reminds me of the work that you do with color. Do you think they do it with a computer, or...
It depends.
It looks like it could also be a bit of watercolor in there, honestly. I don't know if they ever do that in the comic book world, do they?
Oh, they do. I think it's definitely less heard of these days than it used to be. But in Stan Sakai's work specifically, if there is a colored Usagi Yojimbo, it'll go one of two ways. Either it'll be a special... exception where Stan Sakai uses watercolors to color the whole story, or it'll be digitally colored by an assistant like Tom Luth.
Okay, so he's the one. So in this particular volume, did Stan Sakai actually do the writing for the whole thing?
Oh, absolutely. He writes everything.
Nice. So the crossover, so it didn't have Eastman's. Is Eastman even still involved in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic?
He is. He is. He's working with IDW to put out the newer stuff. For example, he's highly involved with The Last Ronin, which is a Elseworld story that tells the story of what happens when all the turtles but Michelangelo dies, and then Michelangelo is the last one.
I think I just got that on my Kindle.
Oh, cool, cool.
It's well, not free, but like it's on Kindle Unlimited. If you have a Kindle Unlimited membership, you can at least get at least one of the volumes anyway. I don't know if it's the whole thing, but yeah, so I'll have to pick that up next.
As a matter of fact, in the back, Kevin Eastman has his cover artwork for this crossover.
Nice. The Foot Soldiers.
Yeah.
Does he call them that in the comics? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. So you have Shredder as well in the comics, or does he go by a different name?
Oh, no. He Rokusaki Shredder. He goes by the same name in the comics.
Roko.
Fun fact, I know we're talking about Usagi, but fun fact, Shredder actually dies the first appearance.
Oh, yeah. I think you've told me this before. Does he get, like, reincarnated?
He does, and this really weird ninja magic where his body is just a little bunch of worms.
Ooh. That's fun. As opposed to, like, well, I guess technically, I'm thinking of Ra's al Ghul, but he doesn't get reincarnated. He just, like, extends his life in the pit, the Lazarus pit.
Well, that's a good correction. I wouldn't say Shredder was reincarnated. I would say he was resurrected, but yes.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I think that's what I meant to say. Because, yeah, he comes back as Shredder. So what would you say is your favorite storyline within the Usagi canon?
Well, most people would say the Grass Cutter story, but I believe my favorite would be Dragon Bellow Conspiracy. Now, on your Kindle, you showed me 2 books that you were going to try to read.
Yeah, I got about halfway through the Tengu War.
Oh, okay.
That's all I've read so far.
Okay. So the other one that you showed me, the front cover, it's okay. I don't own that book. It is an Usagi Yojimbo's origin trade. The reason I don't own it is because I own the original prints. I don't own the republished through IDW version, which is in full color.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, but judging by the front cover, I would say that probably takes place sometime in during the Dragon Bellow Conspiracy arc. So you might be in for a treat there.
Nice. Okay. So that's your, like, chronologically, where does that fall in Sakai's work? Is that like mid-2000s, early 2000s?
No.
Further back?
It's much further back. That's only the 4th trade paperback. I should have moved the box of books back.
Grab the whole box. But you said you don't have a cup. Or no, you have the original black and white.
Yeah, I do. I mean, not everything I have is the original year it was printed, but I do have much older versions of the comics than IDW. Now, where is it? Anyway,
yeah, I was gonna say you got to talk into the mic. Yeah, these mics are very not quite directional, but they're sensitive, and yeah, we're still getting used to them. Our new Audio Technica mics. Okay, Award-winning epic by Stan Sakai, The Dragon Bellow Conspiracy. Who's Alejandro Jodorowsky? The intro.
I do not know.
Never heard that name myself.
But the reason why this is my favorite is because it is the first such epic arc within the series, and it has the blind swords pig in it.
The blind swords pig.
Yeah, one of my favorite characters other than Genosuke.
I see a pig here, but he doesn't seem blind. Is that a different character?
No, that's a different character.
Okay.
The blind swords pig will never have his eyes open and will always.
I see him.
Yeah, there he is. He's got that
okay.
wooden nose strapped to his face.
So his nose got cut off in battle at some point.
Yes, in an earlier trade paperback.
So do you think Stan Sakai's decision to do black and white traditionally, do you think that's influenced by manga at all?
I would say probably so, but also probably just because it was cheaper. A lot of the 80s underground comics were in black and white at that time, actually.
Yeah, like TMNT was also, right?
Yeah, TMNT, The Tick, all sorts of things. Probably Bucky O'Hare. I can't remember everything that was printed during that time.
Nice. Some of these characters are looking familiar, so I feel like either I borrowed this one from you at some point and read it, or just another one with.
Oh, cool.
I'm trying to remember them, but I know I've read at least one or two over the years, probably from your collection. Yeah, I actually looked. I looked for some at McKay's, did not see any. Have you ever run into any there?
No. I take that back. I might have, but it was a trade that I already owned. I didn't know you were looking. I would have picked it up for you.
I know. Like just the other day, I happened to be there, and I was like, "Oh, look and see if they have anything." And no, they did not. But this might be the kind of thing where the fans are like hardcore fans, and they don't ever get rid of their.
I would say probably so. Although the majority of the books I have were all used. Some of them were new, but a lot of them were used. Some of them aren't even in print anymore, and they were hard for me to track down. And I keep talking about the trades, and I just want to point out that that's how I digest these. I do have some issues, but I mostly just waited for the trade paperbacks to come out.
I tend to prefer that as well. I mean, for one thing, it's cheaper in the long run, like rather than buying multiple issues like as they're coming out, and you get maybe 1 or 2 dozen pages, and then you got to wait.
Yeah,
however long it is, a month. It's typically monthly with most issues. Like
of Usagi, well, I think there have been some periods in Stan's life in which it was more like every 2 months or something. I mean, the fans have been very dedicated, and they'll definitely wait for it. There's been times where he stopped to do other projects or stopped because of family issues, I think. But he's very dedicated to his work, so it doesn't stop for very long.
Let's see. All right, so the Dragon Bellows, did I remember it correctly?
Right, the Dragon Bellows
is your favorite storyline. So do you want to give us like a brief synopsis of that, like a summary of what that storyline's about?
Well, I haven't read it in a while, so I might get some of this wrong, but the Dragon Bellow, I believe that is referencing that one of the daimyo, one of the warlords, has been able to get his hands on gunpowder from the west. When it explodes, it makes a loud noise, therefore Dragon Bellow. And he's planning to use this to take down the shogunate and become shogun or something like that. I can't remember if he's working with the Neko Ninja or if the Neko Ninja are probably working for Haikiji.
As opposed to naked ninjas.
Yes, not naked. Neko is in cat ninja. That's
Neko ninjas.
Japanese word for cat.
I mean, you would be able to be really quiet unless you snagged something sensitive.
Yes.
like I don't know how to curse in Japanese, but
yeah, I don't either. Anyway, that was great. So the Neko This is one of the few times, if I remember correctly, Usagi actually works with the Neko ninja.
This joke has been brought to you by Neko wafers. No. Not naked wafers, Neko wafers. Sorry, I couldn't.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, apparently it's a thing. Neko wafers. I don't know why they're called that, but anyway,
okay.
Anyway,
yeah, destroyed my train of thought. Well, anyway, it's several different storylines that all collide. Jinosuke, the rhino, he is on the bounty for Ito. The if I remember correctly, his name is Ito. Anyway, the blind swords pig. The blind swords pig just got a new nose, and he's after Usagi for revenge for cutting his nose off. Usagi is trying to rescue Tomoami, his love interest, from this warlord who has kidnapped her because she came across this conspiracy. I think the conspiracy is against the Geishu clan, which she's a vassal for the Geishu clan.
Not to be confused with Geisha clan. No.
Right.
Geishu.
Anyway, so Usagi and Jinosuke and Ito, the blind swords pig, they all, and the Neko, the cat ninja, who are being sent by Hakiji, Usagi's original nemesis in the early comics. They all start working together. They cross paths. And they find a common enemy in this warlord who has imported this gunpowder and these guns in. And I believe that there's also a vassal working for the warlord who Usagi tries to convert over to their side. But the samurai code of Bushido does not allow him to do so, even though he serves a despicable lord.
Oh, because he's sworn fealty to that lord.
Right.
It's against Bushido to get him to betray his lord, his master. Or
right. The Usagi character, even though he is a samurai and should already know these things, he kind of acts like a stand-in for the reader. So even though this is his nation and his culture, he often acts like the reader in his sensibilities, and then the other characters have to remind him that's not how we do things.
Of course, I guess in real life, like when you live in a culture, you grow up in it, you're not necessarily consciously thinking about those things all the time. Like you have to be, it's like we have so many laws here in America. Like, I don't know what half of them are. Not even that. Like, I'm sure I've broken some I don't even know exist.
It is illegal to hide ice cream in your pockets.
It is illegal to expectorate on the sidewalk at noon on a Sunday. No. Yeah, there's some pretty ridiculous ones out there that are still in the books in some places. But yeah, like I don't know. So yeah, like that's why we have lawyers. That's what they're for. They come and remind us of the laws and help us figure out ways to get around them. Anyway,
get around.
Exactly.
What were we talking about? Dragon Ball conspiracy.
Yeah, you were kind of guiding us through the storyline of your favorite, or you're guiding us through your favorite storyline within Stan's comics.
Well, what I really love about it, they do rescue Tomoami, and they are able to win the day. Haikiji's cat ninjas and Usagi and the team, they end up using the gunpowder to blow up the warlord's castle, and they escape, and they think Ito, the blind swords pig, he just wants to be left alone. He's always wanted to just find peace and settle down somewhere, but he's a wanted criminal because there's a bounty on his head. I don't think it ever really says what he did. It's just that whenever he goes somewhere, he has a violent reaction to people being rude to him, so he kills them or something. Anyway, So they think he died in the explosion, but in the epilogue we see that he survived, and he is brought back to health. Actually, that might be a following story. He's brought back to health by a girl, and he ends up marrying her, and I think having a child. So that's great, you know.
I just thought of a new Stan Sakai story. Iko, the swords pig. When pork fights back.
Pork fights back.
Sorry. I don't know if they even ate pigs in feudal. Well, it's probably not feudal Japan. Is that the right or shogun? Did they eat pork? They probably did.
Well, I can tell you that rhinos did not exist in Japan either.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they might not even had pigs there.
I don't know if they did or not. That's a really good question.
Where did pigs come from? Here's a stuff you should know. Probably has an episode on this. They've been going for 12 years. That's one of the longest running podcasts. But that's probably one of their. Where did pigs come from?
Where?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. But no, I like that. There's like a pig. He's not a samurai, right? He's where is he? He's just kind of like a.
He might have.
He's like a Ronin.
I'm not sure. You know, I'm not really sure. I don't think that Ito's background has really been explored like that before, which is too bad because the character has been retired for a couple of decades now or so. All I know is he has a walking staff that separates to reveal a hidden knife. So I don't know if he was a ninja or just a traveler, or I don't know where he got his sword skills from.
It's a mystery pig. No, I like that.
It is a mystery.
So it's land populated by anthropomorphic rabbits and pigs and rhinos and birds.
Yeah.
And of course, Tengu.
It was a unicorn at one time.
Oh, yeah? Some unicorn?
In the background. You know, I want to talk about that for a second. I don't know why, but Stan Sakai's early work on Usagi Yojimbo had a lot more variation than today. I mean, like today, all the characters are like cat anthropomorphics, but back in the day, he had bulls and horses, and one unicorn in the background. And Gru the Wanderer showed up in a panel, and Hakiji himself is a human, and Hakiji appeared in Senso. But
we've got a guest joining us, by the way. My youngest is here.
But in Senso, Hakichi's face was blackened out, so I think Stan Sakai has decided that he regrets making Hakiji a human character in this world, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure why.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Like, is that the only human character, or are there a few others?
Yeah, so far that's the only human character, unless you count the one panel that Gru the Wanderer appears.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But that's not canon. That's just a gag. So, Hakiji is canon.
Cool. Yeah, there's something like I do like, and I guess maybe this is why his work is popular, but there's something very, very romantic about the samurai and samurai culture and like the Kota Bushido.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I don't mean romantic in the sense of like guy and girl getting together, but more of like the broader idea of romantic.
Oh no, I understand. I really love this series, and there's a lot of really good series out there also about samurai. I haven't read them all. I mean, there's I don't remember.
Yeah, I've picked up a couple of mangas over the years. I think at McKay's actually. Just every now and then I picked up one and read through it a lot. I like that. Yeah, I think the ones I got though ended up being like very like more for like mature audiences.
Right.
So like a lot more blood and guts and nudity and things like that, none of which you see in Usagi, right?
No, that's why it keeps getting parent awards. But I haven't read a lot of them, but I think the one I was going to reference was Lone Wolf and Cub. But I would recommend Rurouni Kenshin.
Right. Yeah. And that was one of your favorite animes.
Oh
as
yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Right? We need
Absolutely.
to do an episode of that.
That would be great. I think it's I love how Usagi Yojimbo can do this too, but I just love how some manga like Rurouni Kenshin and Usagi Yojimbo and well, that's not a manga, but you know what I mean. They're not just dumb entertainment, but they make you think too sometimes.
Yeah, and I like there's like a very whether you agree with all of it or not, there's like a strict moral code, a sense of honor, and there's something about that that's very appealing. Again, whether you agree with all the aspects of the code or not, there's just something about like a through line, a tradition that lasts for a long time, that inspires that kind of honor or commitment. That, yeah, it's interesting at the very least.
So, so I think that's all for Dragon Bell Conspiracy. Should we move on to one of these other books I brought?
Well, is there in our? We got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
We're gonna keep our runtime at about an hour. Is there anything related to the Usagi Yojimbo world that you'd like to talk about before we finish up?
Well, I think it's notable to say that there was a separate series called Space Usagi that is about a descendant in the far-flung future. Space Usagi has a energy sword like a lightsaber.
Right.
There's a lot of aliens and space travel, and then
Did Stan do that as well?
oh, he did. He did.
Nice. Does that have any bearing on the current Netflix series, or are they totally separate things?
No, they're totally separate. I mean, the current Netflix show is still a descendant of Usagi.
So it's still like 1700s Japan or something? Or?
No, it's I haven't seen the Netflix show, but it sounds like it takes place a few hundred years later or something, maybe.
Oh, like maybe towards the end of the samurai era almost? Like into the Industrial Revolution?
Maybe. I'm not sure. It's a fictional world. In the book Senso, this is the last book of the series. Plug your ears now if you don't want to know what happens in this book. But Usagi...
Spoiler warning.
Usagi's world is invaded by octopus aliens, like War of the Worlds. Now, when Stan Sakai made this, he didn't just end the series, by the way. He jumped back and continued making stories in that world. But this takes place 15 years after whatever he eventually ends with the last story is. Usagi dies and fighting the aliens, and he passes his swords down to his son, Jotaro. And my point is that these swords travel from descendant to descendant, and there's the potential for various series within the Usagi franchise to follow different descendants of the character.
Now, does Stan... I imagine he's getting up in years, like 60s, 70s by now.
Yes.
Does he have any proteges that may carry it on after his death, or will it die with Stan, do you think?
As far as I know, it will die with Stan.
There's something appealing about that, though. It's like he's the only one to have ever
I don't
done
think...
it. I mean, more or less.
Yeah, that's true. And to be completely honest, unless it was someone that could imitate his art style and his storytelling and keep the quality up, I don't think fans would accept it anyway. I really don't. We talked about the Netflix series, and I don't want to watch the Netflix series. I eventually probably will get around to it anyway, but the quality isn't there. It's just not Stan's work, and the character designs are rubbish.
I feel like that's fairly unique, like having one writer artist be involved with, maybe I'm wrong about that, but with a comic book series like for decades, and have them be like the sole, in a sense, the sole proprietor, if you will, the sole creative force. Like, I'm trying to think of another example within the comic book realm. There's definitely comic strips, like you have Jim Davis, obviously, with Garfield, but that's a different
That's
animal,
different.
so to speak.
And I've heard tales that he has ghost artists
Oh yeah.
and writers that have been groomed, and but his name is still on there. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to say anything that's not true, but that's what I've heard.
Could be. I mean, that would make some sense. Make your life easier, I guess. If you felt they did work adequate, which once you've got like a 30-year body of work, I feel like as long as someone pays attention to detail, it's you've got a lot to work with. In other words, if you're trying to carry on that and copy style, but yeah, it's never going to be quite the same because it's a different brain working on it. But yeah, there's something kind of nice about the idea of like this will end when Stan either decides to hang it up or dies.
Yes. Yes, I truly, it would be, if it were done correctly, it would be great, but I don't think that there is anyone groomed to take his place, and I do believe it will end with him. I think that's why he went ahead and did Senso. I don't want to talk about anything too sensitive, but he took a break after his wife passed away, and then he did Senso, which ends the Usagi Yojimbo story and then connects it with Space Usagi. And personally, I think it's because with his wife passing away, he was thinking about how much time he had left to complete the story. Now, he has remarried. He has a second wife now. I want to point that out.
Okay.
I assume he's doing very well.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out, see if he ever comes to. I mean, I'm sure you'll be on top of that yourself. But if he ever comes to a convention, I'd enjoy meeting him as well. Like, if he ever makes his way back down to Heroes Con,
that would be great. Now, I don't know if I will be on top of it or not, because to be honest, I didn't know that he was going to be in Charlotte at Heroes Con back in 2019 until the morning of the convention.
So they didn't advertise it as much.
Well, no, they did. I just wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
He was the star guest of the entire thing.
Really? Okay.
He and Sergio Aragonés, since they're friends.
That's
bad.
Cool. That's cool.
Sergio didn't make it down for that Friday when I went. I think it was a Friday anyway, which is too bad. I think his flight got delayed. Funny story, when I did meet Stan Sakai, I brought all my books for him to sign, and I just started taking the books one by one out of the bag, and his wife looked at me and just said, "You are Felix the cat."
Felix the cat, huh?
Yeah.
The
magic bag.
Pulling him out.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it was nice meeting him.
Did he sign them all for you?
He did.
Nice. Mr. Sakai. No, he seems like a cool person.
Yeah, and everybody talks about just how wonderful and nice he is. He has quite the good reputation. Anyway, if we have time, I can talk about some of the animated appearances of Usagi, or we can just wrap things up.
Well, I think we're coming close to an hour here, so maybe we can wrap this up. Maybe we can come back for another revisit of this topic and talk about his animated appearances. Yeah,
that's a good idea. Maybe I can finally watch the Netflix show and we can talk about what we. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can catch some of it or something. I've been planning on getting Netflix again.
Sorry, my daughter wants to add her 2 cents. She's like, what do you want to say?
But maybe we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we should do that. Well, Will, this has been fun. I've kind of enjoyed this. Like, this is I mean, it is an episode, but this is the closest to like me interviewing you that we've done. Because it's a topic that I knew very little about, and obviously you're a long-term fan, and
right.
And so yeah, this has been fun.
I know we're the irreverent nerds, but I can't help but be reverent towards Stan Sakai.
No, I hear that, man. I hear that. I think if I had a comic book Probably the closest I would come in comic book realm would be Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale.
Cool.
I love their Batman work.
I remember you tried to meet Tim Sale one time we were at Heroes together.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, I think the only time we went was 2010. I think it was but yeah, we need to make it out there together this year. And, yeah, it'd be fun. I don't know if they'd let us do that, but like, what if they recorded a live episode from the convention? That'd be kind of. Although
I don't see why they wouldn't let us.
Yeah, I mean, although I don't know, maybe we could get in his press too, and like waive the door fee.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be cool. It's like, hey, we've been in this podcast for a year. We have almost 50 episodes. Actually, we might be at 50 now. I have to go back and look. I know we're.
That sounds great.
This is episode number 10 of season 3. So yeah, we might have crossed the 50 line a little bit ago. That's right. So hey, let's see. So next week is anime week. Well, hey, maybe we could do Rurouni Kenshin next week.
Hey, good idea.
There's our topic. We just picked it. So next week, plan on us talking about the anime Rurouni Kenshin, and I'll try to catch up. I know I've watched a few episodes over the years, so I'll try to catch up with that. And so that's our topic for next week. And then the movie of the month, give you a preview of that, is going to be Shazam, because that's coming up for release pretty soon. So we're going to hit up the Marketplace Cinema again and then do an instant review and then a deep dive of that. So looking forward to some more DC content. And I'm wondering if Black Adam's going to make an appearance at any point in there. Well, I guess we'll find out. Or the Flash even, like if it's going to connect it all to Flashpoint Paradox. It'll be interesting to see if they've started making that, or if they're just going to be like, okay, these are our final 2 in the echoes of the Snyderverse, and then James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to be like, okay, from this point on, we are the masters.
I have opinions about that, but this is not the episode to talk about them.
No, we're not. This is not DC episode. So, anyway, well, guys, thanks for listening, and keep an ear out for next week's episode, and hopefully we'll be able to get the video figured out so we can get a video episode for next week's. In the meantime, I need to get caught up on uploading the other ones to YouTube, so you guys will still have some content to watch if you want to. So yeah. Anyway, nerds, peace out.
Sayonara.
Live long and prosper. Thank you for joining us for another week's episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode to drop, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can send us a voice message. We will include it in next week's episode. Go to anchor.fm/irreverent nerd, click on the message button, and drop us a line. You can also follow us on Instagram. We are at irreverent_nerds. And we are on Facebook, simply The Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. You can also check out extra content on our YouTube channel. Just look us up, The Irreverent Nerds. Each week we will put a video version of the previous week's episode up for viewing. So check it out there. There's also some video shorts and assorted other content. So check us out. Any of those places, like, comment, subscribe, follow. We got polls on many of our episodes, so we'd love it if you participate in those. And most episodes have a simple question: what'd you think of the episode? So please let us know. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Positive, constructive criticism. Tell us you hated it. Whatever. We'd just love to hear from you. And we would love it if you would consider supporting our podcast financially. So go to our Anchor profile, just as I mentioned before, anchor.fm/irreverent nerd, and you can click on the support button there. You can set it up for as little as 99 cents a month, or $4.99 a month, or even $9.99 a month. We would really appreciate your support. It costs a little bit to produce, not too much, but more than anything, it would just let us know that you value the work that we're doing each week. We would greatly appreciate that. So, until next time, nerds, Live long and prosper.